our focus on breaking news that's coming in. In fact, GoFirst has issued a statement. GoFirst has apologized to flyers, said that 55 flyers cheated at the tarmac. Remember, the flight took off without 55 passengers. So GoFirst has said that passengers were sent on an alternate airline, and GoFirst offers cheated passengers a free ticket. Offered a free ticket to cheated flyers is what we're picking up. Let me cut across to my colleague Arunil, who's joining me live on the broadcast. Arunil, this is of course a huge development. In fact, after the fact that the DGCA had put out that show cause notice, we're seeing the first statement rather coming in from the airline. Talk to us more about what they've said.
Well, after the embarrassing situation that GoFirst had to face when around 55 of its passengers were left on the bus on the tarmac only, the flight left without taking these 55 passengers, and the DGCA had issued a show cause notice asking for a thorough explanation from GoFirst. GoFirst has given an apology for the incident and also basically given out their explanation saying that the passengers who were left behind were immediately accommodated in an alternate flight to Delhi or their respective locations later on. And GoFirst basically is also saying that all the passengers who were left behind, who had to basically suffer inconvenience, they will be offered one domestic free ticket by the airline. Clearly an embarrassing situation for GoFirst over here. Imagine a situation wherein a flight has left without taking 55 of its passengers. That is around half of its passengers. Why nobody understood this kind of a blunder, huge blunder? What were the authorities doing? What were the crew members doing? All these baffling questions clearly come to the fore because these passengers were left in the bus on the tarmac. A very embarrassing situation. Now a damage control being initiated by GoFirst.
Right, Arunil, as you're pointing that out, in fact, when, these passengers had put out their horrific experience out there on social media, the only thing that GoFirst actually went on to state is that they regret the inconvenience caused and they didn't say anything. But do you look at it after the fact that the DGCA took cognizance of this matter, which is why this detailed apology has now been given out?
Well, certainly, yes, because we have been asking GoFirst since morning to give out a statement on this. They basically were not willing to speak on the matters, thinking that it will die a slow death. But after DGCA issued a show cause notice, they gave out a statement issuing an apology and also giving out their explanation about how alternate flights were arranged, and also basically said that they also will be giving free tickets to the affected passengers in this case. But very embarrassing situation, I would again like to point out. I mean, what were the crew members or the authorities at the airport doing exactly? Because around 55 passengers were left on the bus, on the tarmac itself, and the flight already left from the Bengaluru airport. What were the security arrangements that are there at the airport doing? What were the airport authorities from GoFirst were doing, and the crew members doing about it? Very baffling questions really come to the fore.
Arunil, as you're also pointing that out, before I let you go. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Arunil, for getting us all those details on this breaking development. For the moment, we leave it at that. So what we can tell you so far is that GoFirst has apologized to the flyers and also stated that passengers were accommodated on an alternate airlines to Delhi and onward to other destinations. Let's cut across to my colleague Madhav, who's joining us live on the broadcast. Madhav, very good evening. This is, of course, an embarrassing situation for the airline. Concurrently, of course, the DGCA issued them that show cause notice. But the first reaction coming from the airline, do you believe this action is coming right after the fact that the DGCA took cognizance? Because earlier their response was not in detail and apologizing to the flyers for this horrific experience.
Well, DGC has already taken cognizance in the sense that they've asked for, a detailed report earlier, but now they have very clearly show cause the airline and the concerned managers. And if I can just very quickly take you through the one or two very important lines that are coming in from the DGCA's own statement. They say that they had sought an incident report, and after perusal of the reply submitted by GoFirst, prima facie it emerges that GoFirst failed to comply with provisions specified in para 19 and 13 of the CAR Section 3 Series C, Part 2 2 issued by DGCA, resulting in violation of Para 1A of Rule 134 read with Schedule 9 of the aircraft. GoFirst has failed to comply with provisions of the specified in Para 5.2 of ATC 02 of 2019. So very specifically, all the rules pertaining to how, in fact, passengers are to be taken, what exactly is the protocol, all of that appears to have been violated. It has further gone on to say that the minimum requirements for grant of airport operator certificate and the Air Transport Circular 2 of 2019 on the facilities and courtesies to esteemed travelling public at airports also appear to have been violated, and goes further to say that as far as the above referred regulations, airlines responsible to ensure adequate arrangement, preparation of load and trim sheet, flight dispatch and passenger cargo handling, and also ensure that all ground handling staff engaged in passenger handling undergo periodic soft skill training for sensitization, courtesy, behavior and procedures for assisting passengers. However, in the instant case, and this is very important because the DGCA specifically says multiple mistakes such as lack of proper communication, coordination, reconciliation and confirmation have resulted in a highly avoidable situation, and therefore DGCA has issued show cause notice to accountable manager or the chief operating officer of Messrs GoFirst as to why enforcement action should not be taken against them for dereliction of their regulatory obligations. To allow the principles of natural justice, they've been given 2 weeks time to submit their reply to the DGCA. You're right that it is right after this, about half an hour after this, that the statement of GoFirst then comes out, where they say that they sincerely apologize for the inconvenience to the passengers due to the inadvertent oversight in the reconciliation of flight G8116 from Bengaluru to Delhi. But this is a very, very blatant violation. Remember that even if baggage is of a particular passenger do not reach the destination in time, that itself is also considered a big of a violation. So how is it possible that an entire busload of passengers were not on board the aircraft and nobody spotted it, from the ground handling staff to the passengers manifest that is in fact there with the staff who are inside the aircraft? How is it that on multiple levels there has been such a huge miss? And we're not talking about 1 or 2 passengers here, we're talking about an entire busload. It's a very, very glaring lapse. It's a big violation, and certainly the DGCA has taken very serious note of it, and that's why now an inquiry has been initiated by the airline itself internally. At the same time, they have de-rostered the crew pending inquiry. Remember, this is very significant. The crew have been taken off the roster because very clearly the cabin crew also have a very important role to play. The pilot in charge also has an important role to play, as far as the fact that 50 whole passengers were not present inside the aircraft, whereas they would have very much been part of that list or the passenger manifest that is given, where their names, their details, their age, etc., all of those details would have been shared. Despite that, they were not present on board the aircraft. And thirdly, while they have of course come out to offer one domestic ticket to those passengers on any domestic destination, the fact is that this is very little coming in very late, and certainly for the passengers who are completely outraged and have had such a harrowing experience, because this is the last thing that any passenger expects, that once they check in, once they've reached the terminal, once they've made it to the boarding gate in time, it is completely the airline's responsibility then to ensure that they reach the final destination. In this case, they were just left high and dry on the tarmac, something that just should not happen and is not acceptable in any country, anywhere in the world, as far as airlines are concerned. And that's why, of course, it's been a massive embarrassment for the airline, and certainly huge inconvenience for passengers. Now, of course, the airline apologizing for the same, following the pulling up that's coming from the DGCA side as far as this entire incident is concerned. Back to you.
Absolutely, Madhav. I appreciate you joining us on the broadcast, getting us all those important details and also breaking down that for us. But